call the policy committee for the school board to order. And the first item on the agenda is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second item on the agenda is approval of the April 20th minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Tonight, policies for first reading are one policy, JED, student absence and excuse.
So I handed
Major
out,
changes.
yep, I handed out and put together what some of the other districts have for attendance policies and spent some time reading through it. I know that we want to kind of get back to pre-COVID attendance and really encourage students to come to school as much as possible. One thing that I've been noticing this year, coming from a school into central office, is that there's confusion around excused and unexcused absences. And I think sometimes families think that if an absence is excused, if they call in or something like that, then that's okay, that it doesn't necessarily count. I think they think that unexcused or truant is when like somebody skips school or they don't call back. So in the draft that I gave you, and again, this is just a draft, feel free to make comments or changes. We decided to start to look at it as documented and undocumented so that there's no confusion. So a documented absence is one that has exactly that, a document that supports it. So for an example, if a student goes to a doctor and they have a doctor's note, documented. Family pre-plans a vacation, that's during the school year. The parent fills out the form, the principal signs it, the teachers give that student their work ahead of time so they can work on it during the trip. Again, there's a form, it's documented. And then undocumented is, obviously there's no document, attached to it. So hopefully that will help clarify some of the confusion because, like I said, if right now if a parent calls the school and says my son or daughter's out sick, it's marked excused. And then when I meet with people or speak with them and they say, yeah, but those are all excused absences, those don't count. And it's like, well, they do count because, if you've missed 30 days of school or whatever, a month of school, that starts to add up. So that's kind of the gist of it. There isn't too many other things. There were many steps before with like 5 days, 10 days, 15, 20, and they were really kind of close together. So on the first page of it, they'll get a phone call every day. So some of the stuff we already do. So anytime a student's out, every parent gets a phone call or an email. Then we're going to do 10 undocumented absences. So obviously if a student has 10 documented absences, because they were sick or in the hospital, that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about students that are missing school. They'll get a letter to let them know, so they know where things are at. And then at 15 days, there'll be a parent meeting that's required. And that's where the intervention plan will be put into place. A failure of the parent to come to the meeting won't stop the guidance counselor or the administrator from working with the student and coming up with the intervention plan. Sometimes in the past what would happen was we would set up the meeting, the parent didn't come, wasn't able to show up, we would cancel it. The attendance plan wasn't written, we would try to reschedule it. Then 2 more weeks go by. They will create the plan at 15 days. Then when it starts to get more serious, you hit the 20 truants or 20 undocumented. That's when the district administrator, somebody up from central office, will send out that 20-day letter, and that's going to include the attendance policy, the law, and that's when it may result in a referral to DCYF or the police department for prosecution. So it would have to be at least 20 or more days before that happened. Because really, up until that point, we're going to continuously try to work with parents.
Oh, Shane.
When you say may, or may, like what situations would it be where we wouldn't put the referral to East Way for the police department, or where we would?
So if a parent's trying to work with us, so say like a mom comes to a meeting and she says like, I'm struggling, my son is bigger than me, he fights me every day, he doesn't want to come to school, and we're trying to work with that family and help her. The DCYF is more for, say, elementary school students who can't advocate for themselves and their parents aren't getting them to school. And so if you've got like a 7-year-old that hasn't come to school for 20+ days and the parent didn't show up for the meeting, didn't call us, doesn't respond to our emails, that's when we would think like there might be some educational neglect involved.
So we pretty much, if we have a parent more engaged with the school and everything, we're willing to work with them more than someone that's just like checked out, really don't.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the referrals to the Rochester Police Department are, again, some parents say, like, I can't get them to school, I need help. They've missed days.
Okay.
So, yes, we would only reach out to an outside agency when we've exhausted all options and the parents need help or are struggling.
Okay.
The numbers like 10, 15, 20, do those reset at the end of the semester?
No.
Or is that for the whole year?
It's cumulative for the whole year, yeah.
Ian, may I ask?
Yes.
Okay. In the case you just cited, do we have a truant officer? Does anybody go to the house to see if they're still living in? Oh my God, I got people moving in and out of my neighborhood, like, changing underwear.
At this time, we don't have a truant officer. That position has been unfilled. So Kim and I have been doing all the paperwork as a truant officer this year, meeting with families, sending out things. We've had 70 parent meetings this year. We've had over 100, so I'm doing it, is what I'm trying to say.
My concern is people actually moving out and going to Lebanon or something. How would you know that they're still there and then?
So a house visit, so sometimes, the principal will call and say, kids are saying that so-and-so moved, that they don't live here anymore. We would go out, we would knock on the door, we would call them, we would ask them. Most of the time, they'll answer the phone. And then also, if somebody moves to another district and they enroll their child, we get a call for the student's cumulative file. So then we know. So sometimes we'll get a call from Maine and they'll say so-and-so enrolled.
Would that happen over the border as well, from Maine as well? Somebody moves to Lebanon?
We would get a notification if they enroll their child in another school.
Even over in Maine?
Yeah,
Okay.
even anywhere in Florida, we'll get calls.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
So it's been mentioned on social media, and I've received 2 phone calls that says when somebody's calling their child, and especially to the high school, it's just the phones are ridiculously busy, and it either just keeps ringing or they're not able to get. Could a documented be that they could email as well? Do they have to call the school, or is there another form that they can email the school so that they're not? I mean, it sounds like if they're not getting through, then there's some important I assume that our secretaries aren't sitting there just listening to the phone ring, so I know that they're busy. Is there another way with technology these days that they can document their child's absence so that A, they're not having to constantly call, and B, the person that's working is able to either look it up via email or?
They can email. So some of the schools do have parents that will email.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to clarify, just the parent calling their kid out sick, that's not going to be documented without the teachers,
No.
without a document. Okay. That's the one thing I want to
That's,
address.
so good question. If a parent calls in and says, my son or daughter's sick, it's undocumented,
Correct.
but it's noted in the system. Truant is when the student skips school, doesn't have parent permission, or anything like that.
But that would count as 1 day against their 20 for the year as an undocumented absence.
Correct.
Okay. Unless they come to school with a doctor, know why they're out sick. Then it would go as done.
Correct.
One other thing.
Yeah.
So talking about the truant officer, I know we had the truant officer quit last year, or this year, or don't we have one posted to hire a new truant officer?
I'm sure that Mr. Apusi is gonna post all those positions and try to hire.
Okay.
So if a child is sick
Yeah.
and the parent calls and says, my child has a fever,
Yeah.
that's not documented.
It's not documented, it's undocumented. The situation that we're in now is that the philosophy of school and attendance and the importance of it has been really lost due to COVID, because we were asking people to stay home if they're sick, and we still are. But what they thought that meant was that as long as they just call in and say that their son or daughter's homesick, that it's a free pass. And so if you have been sick 20 or more days in a school year and you haven't seen a doctor, you should probably see a doctor. And if you don't have insurance or can't afford it, and the school nurse says, like, looks or says you're sick or sends you home, that's considered documented. So if you go home sick and you threw up or you had a fever, that's considered documented. You might be out for a couple days. This really impacts the people who have missed 50 school days, 40 school days. There are students who don't come to school, and the parents call and say, they're sick, they're sick, they're sick.
My concern is the parent's gonna say it's undocumented, I'm gonna send my sick child to school, so the nurse can then send him home, so it's documented. You know what I mean? Like, if you're sick, and you know what I mean? To have a parent take care of a sick child and call a doctor and get a note.
So
Ah.
it's only if it happens more than 20 times. So
Right, but if my child is sick for 3 days in a row, that's 3 undocumented, correct?
And you still have 17 more. 17 more times.
20 days is a lot of days.
And that's what's been abused, is that parents just saying, yeah, my kid's sick, when they're really not sick, they just don't wanna get them to school. So that's why this needs to be a change.
One thing to be out for 20 days, but 50 days, that's a lot of school miss.
And those are the ones
That's
that
a
we
lot.
referred to the police department, so we probably referred like 30 cases. We've had like over 70 meetings, 150 plus packets have gone out. So if we meet with parents and families and they're working with us, obviously those aren't the families. I mean, we've met with lots and lots and lots of families. So we understand that kids are sick.
Have we prosecuted any? Have there actually been prosecutions, and what's the outcome for that?
The parent gets fined.
Does it change behavior? That's what I'm wondering.
So we hope.
But this policy isn't 50, it says after 15, the parents are required to go in and meet with the school.
Yep, and that's what we want to do. Those are the parents that I've sat down with, the principal, the guidance counselor, and they say, yeah, she was sick and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, yep, okay, so what do we need to do? Here's the plan, we write the plan out, and then we move forward. Then they could be sick another week. And so it's after they've been sick another week and they hit 20. If the parents are working with us, we're not referring it to outside agencies. So what I'm trying to say is I've had this many meetings, and I've referred the cases where the parents don't call, they don't come in, nothing's changed, the students hit 30, 40, 50 days of school. It's not in the situations where somebody had the flu, had a tooth pulled, missed a couple weeks of school. We're not talking about those situations.
So the parents are charged with duty to parent, and then they go to court, and it can ultimately be up to the judge on what happens.
Whatever the judge wants.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes there's a fine involved.
I would just
They'll get a summon
wonder
to
what
appear.
entices a parent to change their attitude towards the kid going to school. What motivates someone not interested in our education system?
When you get pulled over on a motor vehicle stop and you get arrested by a cop,
Right there?
then hopefully that might change your attitude. And it kind of pulls you out of your schedule, whatever you have going on, and now you're going to sit in the back of a cruiser, and now you're on your way to the police department because all you had to do was get your kid to school or stop saying your kid was sick when they're really not.
And I guess the most important thing to remember is that attendance in school is mandatory, it's the law. And so whether or not we agree with it, we have to follow the law. And that's what we're doing. And we're trying to help make this less confusing because the word excused makes everybody think that it's okay.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about excessive absences. We all miss school, we all call in sick. You know, we're all sick. We're talking excessive, not returning phone calls, not answering letters, not responding to emails.
I'd like to move policy JED to the full board for first reading.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
One day.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't like the policy?
I don't like the fact that if a parent is calling after 15 days, they have to go to meet with this. I get the 50 part, I'm 100% on board with 50 and undocumented and everything. But if a child is sick, I mean, if they're sick for 3 times and then the next month they're sick enough, I mean, some kids just are sick.
I know, I have a granddaughter who's like
Correct.
fever at the drop of a
So
hat.
I just think if a parent's doing the right thing, especially with COVID and there's a temperature and they keep their child out and I just think to make them come in after 15 days. Again, I get it, and I want kids in school too. And I know the law was mentioned, does the law state it has to be 15 days?
So the law is actually 10 half days, so 5 days. So the law says we could do that in 5 days, and
Yeah.
we're going 3 weeks. So we bumped it out, and prior to, it was 10 days. So it was 10 days for these meetings and notifications, and I've sat in the other seat, so I understood that like 10 days is a lot, and you're just like going with all these plans, so that's why we're bumping it to 3 weeks.
No, and I get it, I just think if a
think-
parent's in contact with the school and the parent is saying the kids are sick, I don't think to require them after 15 if we know that they're sick. I think there are those people that have kids that are sick that are calling in to say that that's undocumented.
I have one in my family. I
Yeah.
have a granddaughter who spikes the fever. They have never been able to figure out why.
Yeah,
But the school nurses are all very familiar with what happens with this child. So, you know, my daughter has obviously worked with the school, with the teachers, with the principal, with the school nurse. And they know that Peyton,
but doesn't she still have to
So
come
does
in
that
after
get
15 days?
documented?
what?
Does that get documented on the child's list?
Well, at some point, she spikes the fevers at school and the school nurse does document. So, yeah, that is documented.
But does she have to come in, do you know, does she have to come in after 15 if she's undocumented after 15
Well,
days?
this is new. It
And we
hasn't.
haven't changed
But
the
but
policy.
what you're talking about is a known medical
It's a
concern.
known medical concern,
Correct.
and my daughter's worked with the school system. You know, she doesn't not do her work. She's
Right.
responsible enough to get her work if she's out. It was really fun during COVID because they don't want her back for 24 hours if she has one of her spikes. But I think that's different from the parent who never calls, never excuses their kid, doesn't respond to phone calls.
I agree with that, but if they call, so if, let's say your daughter, for instance, if she were to call,
Which she
it's
does.
still considered undocumented.
Right.
So on top of, you know, taking time off of work and being home with their child that is considered medical, you know, has a medical issue, and getting all the work and stuff, after 15 days, she then has to have a meeting with the school as well. I think it could be a little bit much. I think if there's something in the policy that says for documented illnesses, you know what I mean, maybe they don't. So, you know what I mean, like if we added something in there for that, there's nothing in our policy right now that says that. So if your daughter says, my daughter has these frequent fevers, and here's a note from my doctor that says she does get these frequent fevers,
Yeah,
or whatever, there should be some kind of,
That's documented.
that's documented.
but if she calls her daughter in sick on a Monday,
And
But
says
this
she's got a fever, and we know it's a documented case. And to be honest, the last.
that's not how I read, that's,
Okay.
yeah,
The last policy was 10 days.
yeah, which I didn't agree with
So
either.
now it's 15.
Yeah.
So we're just really trying to promote school attendance. We're really trying to work with families and help them and sort out the difference between somebody who's sick and somebody who's having a struggle. Because sometimes it's embarrassing for parents to say, my son or daughter refuses to come to school and I can't physically pick them up and kick them out the front door.
So if a parent has a doctor's note that says my daughter has a chronic illness,
Yep.
and then 2 weeks later they call that child out, that note that's on file covers that as a documented illness.
Yep.
But if they don't have that doctor's note and they call out, it's considered undocumented. So the doctor's note makes it,
That's what the policy says.
Well, I think
I
there
did
are,
not read
there are
that. Can you
kids
show me
that,
where in the policy it says that?
but
'Cause
there
I
are
did not read
kids that get, you
Well, the
know,
doctor note's gonna give it a documented answer. I just think.
Doctor's note for my daughter was out, your child's out for the next 3 days is a doctor's note, not a documented note that covers for the entire year.
See, I don't think all parents have abused it, but I think a good portion of the parents have abused my kid's sick, and it's excused when they're really not sick.
More of a-
Some, yes, but.
it's more of a
there's been-
mental health day than a real illness.
Correct.
Yeah,
And that's
no,
what I
Sarah's
think we
looking
need
to
to
see where
skip.
it is in there, because I didn't read
It's a
it.
documented absence, it's item
It's-
number,
There's these, there's 5 of them right here under
yeah,
that.
it's number 1,
On what page?
the last page of the policy.
But it was, the motion was to bring it to the full board, right?
Right.
And then it could be discussed again. and
We
then
can
there was
discuss it
seconded.
again, but
Okay.
at some point, you recognize your kid as a frequent flyer in the clinic, in the walk-in for antibiotics, you touch base with the school nurse, you touch base with the school, and they pretty much know that your kid is frequently ill, other than people that just call and say sick.
So it's time to move on to the
Okay,
next.
we'll move on to the next one. Policies for second reading this evening, policy EBBA-7, prevention and control of head lice. Update, and policy JHCDE1, New Hampshire School Board of Education policy statement, it will be deleted. And JHCD-E2, prescribed emergency medication by injection, that will be deleted. And policy JLCD, administering medication to students, which is new. So we have an update on head lice. We have 2 deleted medication policies replaced by a new medication policy for second reading. Anyone have anything?
What's the update on that invoice?
You can see the original policy and the strikeouts, and then the new one too.
Not seeing the one with the strikeouts, I'm sorry.
It's not there.
Yep, the new one is there.
There's, I don't see any strikeouts.
It's not there in the agenda.
It's not there?
It might have been
It's
on.
not there.
Okay, that's why I was
sorry.
asking.
Might
for
have
that.
been there last month, I
I
can,
think it was there last month
It
for
was.
first reading.
I can,
We saw it.
yeah, because this is the second reading, but I can try to pull up the original one.
That's fine, I thought there were changes since the last meeting,
No.
so
No.
there was minor
No.
changes and there's no changes.
No.
So I will make a motion to move all of those to the full board for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Any other discussion? Yep, Sarah?
I think last month no, just kidding, that's item
Okay.
7, that's, I'm early.
Just
Okay.
kidding.
Item 7.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I will move to the full board. 5-year plan, I don't believe we have anything to do on 5-year plan this evening, but there is a meeting of the 5-year committee on Monday evening at
There is.
middle school. Number 6, public comment. Would anybody from the public like to comment? No? Gee. I'm sad. Policies. Other, any other, there's one under other. We have policy JLCDA-R, medical treatment parent guardian forum.
So I gave you both forms.
Oh, we have preamble too.
Yep, I gave you both forms. The original form was the one that we started working on in November. There was some feedback and some concerns. So if you look at the second one, I took your feedback and just made some revisions. I numbered the sections so that it was clear that it's not just a one yes and then it's full consent. It's basic school services, it's hearing, it's vision, and then it's permission to share information. Those are in bold. The information about CPR and first aid, rather than it being just like right up there, It comes at the bottom so that they can get through the basic, the hearing, the vision, the information, and then it goes into the more serious piece about the first aid. And what it is indicating is that anytime somebody would need CPR or an extreme, an ambulance would always be called.
Yes, Sarah?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's clear and easy to follow.
I like it too. I think it'd be easy to fill out.
This will be done beginning of every school year?
No, it's a
one and done.
one-time,
Oh, so.
yeah.
Like kindergarten, and then it's good through 12th grade.
So everyone's gonna see this next year since they've never done this, or if we've already done a form of this, we're not gonna do it again?
No, we're not gonna redo it, but what'll happen is this form
All kindergartners,
will be updated. Anybody who's new or enrolling, anybody who requests it again,
okay.
anybody in kindergarten, and parents at any time can say, it says right at the bottom, I indicate in writing that I wish to rescind this consent. So at any time, they can rescind consent.
So it's where it was new last year, correct?
No, November, we started working on it, and it went out, I want to say, in January.
Is it too encompassing to say that the parents that didn't fill it out this year, that we send it out to them just as a reminder?
We can.
I mean, the ones that have already filled, I don't know if there's a way to
There it is.
dissect. I would just say, since it's new in November, anybody that hasn't signed it, we might want to just send it to them again at the beginning of the year, so that way, maybe that'll give them a nice
Yep.
friendly reminder to sign it.
Yep.
I don't know if the board feels the same. It's easier on the nurses if it's signed.
Much easier.
And again, it was a little odd to get it not right in September, where they're used to filling everything out in September. So I don't think it's too big of an ask to share it again.
Yeah, I was just thinking if it wasn't able to separate who signed it and not signed it, to send it out to everybody might be encompassing. But if there's a way to separate that information, it just might be smart for us to send it out, because if you get half of them signed, it's just that much less stress on your staff.
Good idea.
Do we need to approve this?
Nope, it's just a revision. None of the language or wording changed. It's just the formatting, yeah.
The format.
Yep.
Looks great.
Yeah, I like it. I think it looks good.
Yeah, it looks great.
And then we have the preamble. We have a copy of the preamble. Publicly communicating false statements about people that defame them could subject the speaker to both criminal and civil liability in the state of New Hampshire. In that vein, statements made at public input or at public hearings are not privileged. In other words, speakers participating in public input or public hearings at public meetings are not immune from potential consequences for their words. Furthermore, the fact that the public body does not prevent these statements from being made does not excuse or endorse those statements. It just means that the public body, in this case the school board, both recognizes and respects the right to free speech enshrined in the First Amendment to our Constitution.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this from the city?
Yeah.
So, this was drafted by Attorney O'Rourke, the city attorney, and he shared it with the city council, the police commission, and us to consider using prior to any public comment session. We could start by reading this. He offered it to us to consider.
Are they reading this at city council meeting?
Not yet. No, I haven't heard it read yet.
I like it.
You like it?
Yep.
I would like it to start a little friendlier.
Well, I understand that, but I think we need to make a point. It doesn't need, something like this, because what's going on, I don't think we need to be friendly in this kind of category. I think we need to make sure they understand that we're not messing around.
I would also request that it's posted. I mean, I think if you're gonna say something like this, we have some Spanish people in our community. Are we gonna put this in a different language as well? Or, do you know what I mean? If you're gonna make this statement and somebody comes up and English isn't the first language. We've never really had a Spanish speaker come up and talk, but if you're gonna make this.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we're more likely to have French than Spanish.
I think Spanish is not,
Spanish
we have a
is
lot of Spanish
overwhelming.
people in Rochester. I don't get, I just, you know what I mean, I wanna make sure that if we're posting it or whatever, it's able to be.
We could certainly post it to the website.
Yeah,
So
and I
this-
would even think posting it, because we only have here in city council, right? Can we not post it before the people enter city council and then post it before they come in here so they're aware of it?
Or at the podium, we could just have
Put
it
it at
on
the
the
podium
podium
where
where
they
they
go to
sign
sign
in.
in.
That's
So
true.
is the plan to read this at public comment?
Yeah, before.
Every meeting?
Every
I don't think it
meeting
needs
is
to be
committee
read.
meeting.
Yeah.
It would be full
Mm.
board and committees.
Does it need to be read if it's posted?
I think we need to read it.
Yes.
I just think that I support this wholeheartedly, and I think it shows our staff that we take this seriously and that we, you know, we don't condone.
So would
Those
we say
statements.
this right up front, or would we do the little part about saying your name, leaving us your
Yeah,
name
I
and
would-
address?
Yeah, this would
And then you
go
have
before that.
3 minutes,
5 minutes.
5 minutes, whatever.
And then read this.
And then read this.
Say that, again. So you're saying that they would read it?
I would rather say, welcome to public comments, you have 3 minutes, please leave your name and address up there, and then read
And,
this.
yeah, that's what I would do.
I just don't think starting right out with that is very adversarial to me, that's almost like a challenge.
No,
Well, that's why I'm thinking if you post it on the doors as they walk in, if they're walking in to read public comment, and I agree putting it on the podium, but if you post it as they walk in and they see it and they read it, maybe that'll give them pause. Well, if you're saying no, then having it at the podium, they're already prepared.
I know.
I guess my concern is if you have it at the podium, I just wanna make sure they're aware, like maybe when they walk into city councils on both the doors, it's posted there, and as they walk in here, it's posted. They can read it before they walk in,
I
and they
see what
can't
you're
say
saying,
that,
but
yeah.
people who are coming and have an agenda to say something, they're probably not even going to read that stuff.
Correct.
And they're gonna need to hear it.
correct.
But at least if they come up to the podium and say, we could say, well, it's been posted on the door, you knew it when you walked in here, it was posted. That's my only thing, is I agree with you. People are gonna be negative, I also agree with Sarah. We wanna protect our staff, we wanna let them know that apparently they civil liability and whatever,
Right.
and it's not condoned. I would just say post it, laminate it. Put it wherever, so that it's well known.
Wasn't the plan also to attach it to the agenda?
It
of
should be
every-
in under, right in the agenda, in the public
Yeah,
comment.
we could do that.
I think with every public comment, that statement should be right there.
Does it have to go to full board for approval?
Yeah, this is, Chair Lynch at our last full board meeting asked that we talk about it first here and then we'll send it to full board and the full board can discuss it in June.
Yeah, I think posting it somewhere is nice, but I still think we need to read it. I think because how many people are just gonna put their papers right over that? They're not gonna read it, because if they know they only got 5 minutes, they're not gonna take them 5 minutes to read this and then go on.
At least 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I make a motion that we recommend this to the full board at the next meeting, you know, where the policy committee recommends this to
Second.
the full board.
That it be read
That it
at all committee meetings and full board meetings?
be, yeah, read it all.
And
Any
that it be
place there's-
posted.
Any place we
Posted and
allow
attached
public
to the
comment.
agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll second.
See in the agenda.
and it would be in the agendas.
Sorry,
Shane
so
seconded.
so the motion is for what? For it to be read and for it to be posted? Do we
In the
decide where
agenda,
it's gonna
on
be
the
posted?
agenda.
Oh, on
Under
the
public
agenda.
comment. Yeah, where it says public comment, we'll just have that underneath it.
Are we recommending that we post it anywhere, like on the podium or on the doors?
I don't think we can post, I mean,
We can post it on our,
I'm thinking City Hall, I don't
I
know
don't
if that's our
think we can.
prerogative
No,
to post
sure we
anything
can.
there. That's a city
They
council.
might
all
even,
kinds of
they might
things
even
there.
think it's a good idea at City Council.
can we
That's
ask
right.
City Hall if they plan on posting it? If they gave it to us, can we ask them what they plan on doing with it and when they plan on instituting?
We can bring that up at the full board if you want.
I mean, if they gave it to us and we're aligning with them, I think it'd be nice to know what their plans are.
We can bring that up at the full board.
A motion and a second's been made to recommend this to the full board at the June meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And then we have, any other?
I have one other thing. You asked about how much it costs to be able to see policies for the New Hampshire School Board Association. It's $450.
A year?
Yes.
And that covers all the trainings?
That's for the policy. You had said, how much does it cost for us to be able to use the New Hampshire School Board Association and the policies and the samples? It's $450.
Okay. Trainings are free, correct?
Most trainings are free, but there are a few that cost money because they have people come in.
So typically with the $450, it comes with some free
I
training?
don't know if that includes, if that's our membership fee.
No, I only asked about how much it costs to have access to the policies.
So you don't know how much the membership fee is?
Probably less than $5,000 a year. I think it's around like 4,000, and like 450 for the policies.
They base it on the number of employees the district has. That's the way it is for the entire state.
No. If you can get that, I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a lot, but if we just had it,
I can guarantee it's less than 5,000, but I'll give you the exact amount.
okay, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Oh, okay.